Once again, I want to welcome you all to our Wednesday webinar on Windchill 11, Navigate, and the Internet of Things. My name is Michael Wimberly, and I'll be presenting this today. So the agenda for the day for the webinar is very simple. Basically, the overall objective is simply to go through and review and demonstrate Windchill 11, the Navigate functionality, and talk about how the Internet of Things interfaces between the Windchill 11 and the Navigate functionality. So once again, we'll go through some basic introductions of boundary systems, of course, of myself, and then once again, just a general overview, go through a demonstration, and then have a Q&A session afterwards. All right, so once again, myself, I'm Michael Wimberly. I am a senior technical specialist at Boundary Systems. I've been working with PTC products for over 20 years now. I've been certified to teach for about 20 years now, maybe a little bit under, but not much. I am certified currently to teach the Creo classes as well as Windchill classes, as well as being a certified implementation specialist for Windchill. I've been with Boundary Systems now for a little bit over 4 years, but once again, I've been working with PTC products for quite some time now. Boundary Systems, first off, the headquarters of Boundary Systems is in Cleveland, Ohio, probably about 5 minutes away from the airport. We are a technology leader in the area. We have partners such, of course, as PTC, Solid Thinking, eTriage, Autodesk, and other tech companies. We have number 16 fastest growing private company in Cleveland. So we continue to excel in what we do. We continue to grow in the things that we're doing. So as we continue to grow our staff, we also continue to grow our capabilities. So that helps us to stay on the cutting edge. Some of our capabilities are product lifecycle management, data management, CAD design and consulting. We also do simulation and product development. So we can do everything from actual CAD work. We can do simulation for you, or we can go in and help you with your data management as well as helping you set up product lifecycle management functionalities. What you see on the right side of the overhead are just a few of our companies that we work with. This, of course, is not all the companies, but we do work with quite a few. These are just a few that we have listed. Some additional information about Boundary Systems, of course, some of our awards, we've been in the Inc. 5000 as well as the Weatherhead 100, which is basically the Northeast fastest growing company. So we've been in both of those listings for the last 4 or 5 years. Some of our major accreditations are, once again, Windchill certified implementers. We are PTC Preferred Service Provider, and we are PTC Certified Training Center in our Cleveland office. All right, and then once again, just some of the business solutions that we have, that we offer, Solid Thinking, eTriage, Autodesk, and Oasis. So we also have additional things outside of the realm of PTC products that actually integrate with PTC products on some of those applications as well. So if you want any more information on any of those, just let me know. We'll definitely give you some more information. Some of that is FEA stuff, as well as eTriage allows us to do a lot of the integrating information with Windchill. All right, and then here's my general information. So my name, once again, Michael Wimberly. My phone number is 513-415-0747. 513 is the Cincinnati area code. That's actually where I'm out of. So I'm actually stationed out of Cincinnati, once again, headquarters being in Cleveland. And then any sales questions that you may have, you can direct those to our senior sales rep or area rep, and that's Carrie Dillon. And there's her number and her email as well. I'll also post this once we finish the presentations as well. All right, so at this point, I will go ahead and jump into demonstration. All right, so once again, Windchill 11, There are some enhancements in 11. Now, I will say up front, unfortunately, something went awry with my image. So some of the functionality that I wanted to show, I can't, but I'll talk you through some of it because I think it's a lot of good information that can be shown or can be talked about. All right, so one of the first things I want to do is inside of Windchill, this of course is our home page. So when we want to go and find data, we can search up here. We can use our search over here on the side to go into search information. If we use the one on the side, we can get to any previous searches that we've actually executed. So inside of here, we can go to our advanced search and simply go in and execute a search, and we can go to our classification explorer, which actually allows us to go through and look at any classified information. And I'll talk about that in more detail in just a moment. So I'll go to advanced search, and then up here, I'll go ahead and specify just for what we're doing here. Just start typing for armature, and it's going to go through and find everything there. Now, what I want to hit on is that in 11, like I said, for some reason it's not showing here. The advanced search and classified searches, although there are different tabs here, well, first off, that's an enhancement itself. It's just having classified information here, because normally you would basically go through the main search up at the top to get there, but you have it right here. But also, if you have data that has classification set up in them, that the classification search information would actually show in this same search results window, which will allow you to go through and begin to filter down the information that you're actually searching for. So you can now go through different classifications. So just so you can see, this is kind of set up to show some general information. I don't have anything defined right now, but what you can look at is that if we have some information such as mechanical items, we could go in and now specify our mechanical fasteners, go in and specify something as a hex flange bolt. We can do it as a nut. We can also go into nuts and filter those down a little bit more, like a weld nut, your standard hex nut, things like that. Socket head cap screws can be classified. So what we're able to do is now give our items or objects inside of Windchill actual classifications, so that it allows us to find them a lot easier. And be able to filter our searches not just by part number, but by the actual type of object that it is. So that actually works out really well in our searching. I'll go back to my armature. And then I'll go ahead and view the armature itself. So once again, we have our general layout here with the information. We have our structure tab that we can go in and look at as well. Now, this is also one of the enhancements that we'll see when we're working inside of Windchill 11, is that now it actually has a feel of like Creo view. Like when you're opening up Creo view, if you're working in an assembly, it doesn't pull up the entire assembly at once. It allows you to filter and selectively pick the items that you want to go through and pull up. So you don't have to go in and pull up the whole top level assembly at once, especially when it's a large assembly. So in my visualization, once again, it being blank, it's just simply waiting for me to begin to select the items that I want to go in and display. And if I do want to go through and see everything, then I will simply go over and select on the top level item, and it will go through and show the entire assembly. And I can come through and view it here. Once again, I can go through and select on the items here, specify the items. I can also go in and do a slight measurements in these things as well, where I can go through and create like a diameter measurement. I want to see what the diameter is of this item right there, and it'll go through and show me what that diameter is. So that's another benefit. So even without going directly into Creo view, if I want to go through and measure, some information inside of my assembly, I can do that right here within the actual structural tab for the object that I'm looking at. The other thing that we're able to do is we have the product structure explorer that we would go through and use. And that was more of a Java-based functionality. So it actually go through and take a little bit more time, and it was a little bit more cumbersome to go through and use. So what we're also able to use now is now we can go through and use a product structure explorer. What this is actually allowing me to do is now open up this didn't come up when I just did it a moment ago. Because I pulled up the wrong one. It's pulling up Java. See, this is why we don't use this one. Because now we have to go through all the Java stuff. So what we can go in and use instead is the browser. See, I pulled the Explorer. The Explorer is a Java-based application. As you can see, there's a lot that we have to do there to actually pull that up. If we have, our Java settings, the security of those. I don't know if you guys have worked with Java in the past, but you know that the latest version of Java actually has more stricter security settings. So if we go in and just simply open up the browser, it's pulling it up simply in a web browser. So I don't have to go through all the Java functionality that was there. So I can go through and view the information as we can see here. So if I come back over here, and what I'm doing here is I'm actually pulling up both versions of this assembly. So I have the design assembly, which is basically what the design engineers go in and create, and I also have the manufacturing version of it as well. So we can go through and see each one of those pulled up individually and compare the structures and even edit the structures here if we need to as well. So there's quite a bit that we can do inside of here. Once again, without using the Java functionality, we're using the actual just simply a web browser functionality. So once again, it's a lot easier to go through and use and a lot easier functionality to go through and manipulate. All right, so this is our general information. This is our regular Windchill interface. So what we're also able to use, or I should say, those that don't use Windchill on a regular basis, such as maybe those are on the shop floor. They don't need to go in and see a lot of things, a lot of the information, or a lot of the complicated information that we see directly inside of Windchill. They just need to find something, view something, get a parts list, a BOM structure, whatever it is, real quickly without having to go through the interface of Windchill. And a lot of times we do give them licenses to go in and do that, maybe a light license, which basically they can go through and view the information. But there is another option, which is where the Internet of Things comes in. With the Internet of Things, it actually allows us to now go in and basically use the Internet truly to our advantage. So we're able to now go through and design an application that pulls information from Windchill without actually us individually having to go into Windchill. So what we're able to do is go in and use what we call the Navigator. And that's what we have here. So currently, this is the View Navigator. There are in the works that allow us to go through and do editing as well. So right now, we're just able to go in and view information. But we're at sometime in the future, there will be additional navigators coming up, which will allow us to go through and edit some information as well from inside of here. But what we're able to do is simply go through and view design files, such as our CAD files. We can also go through and view documents or even requirement documents. So for this example, and I just want to come over here and I'm going to get a parts list. So I'm going to come over here and do a parts list, and I'm going to come over here and I'm going to search for a car. All right, and then as you can see, when I search for a car, it gives me quite a few options for that. And if I come over here and select on, the actual car structure itself, it'll actually pull up the car. And because it is, I probably should have picked the smaller one, but because I picked the top level, now what it's doing is giving me my parts list, or it's basically putting together my parts list for this car structure to allow us to go through and view the information. So I won't pick this next time. Actually, we can go back. And let's do that again. And I'll pick something smaller. Let's pick that. All right, so now you can see that inside of here for this car sealing tube small, we have many different items inside of there. So we can see the actual structure, we can see the quantity of each one, we can even see the state and when it was last modified. Now, the benefit of working in the Navigator is, once again, it's just a general search. All we're doing is going in and searching, just like we do in Windchill, but we're doing it in a much easier interface. This is very easy. We know that, okay, we're going in and we're looking for something. We want to do a measurement. We need to go in and find the size of something. So I'm going to go in, I'm going to use car again because it gave me quite a few results. And let's come over and pull up the carburetor. Now, what I do, because I'm doing a measure in 3D, what it's actually going to do is actually going to pull it up in Creo view. And inside of Creo view, once again, I can come over and turn on everything, and now I have full Creo view functionality. Still loading. So I have full Creo view functionality that I can go through and use. Same thing, come over here to my markup area, measure diameters. Great. I can come over here and measure a length. Pick an edge. Okay, it gives me the length of that edge. Pick that edge. It gives me the total length of those items together. Things like that. So I can go through and do simple measurements directly inside of Creo view. So I have that functionality directly from the browser. So once again, I've not touched Windchill, had no reason to go in and touch Windchill. But the other thing that's beneficial is not only from here can I go in and do my measurement, but these are the other options that were available on my home page. So if I want to see what the parts list are, I can just simply go in and select on that icon, and it'll now come up and give me the parts list for this carburetor. So once again, it's just taking a few seconds to go in and put the parts list together, but there it is. So now I can see everything that's been created within this assembly. And once again, the quantities of everything that are there. I can also come over and do a structure. So don't just show me a parts list, but actually show me the actual structure of how it's put together. So I can see an indented BOM basically of everything that's there. Now, the other thing that I can do is, as I'm going in and selecting on the individual items, if they have viewables, those viewables will actually show up in the top right corner. So to give me the information on that. So there's a throttle body assembly. So I can see that information there. And if I want to get more information on that, all I simply do is pick on its part number, and it becomes the item that I'm actually viewing inside of my structure. And then the same thing here, parts list, measurements, all of that here. So I can also just do a simple general information here. So the one thing that we're looking at here is we're looking at just some general information. So we're looking at, the number, the name, the versioning, and the state. And then the two additional attributes that we're looking at are also like last modified and created. Well, it would also be good that if this was last modified on this date, it would also be good to know who last modified this object. So we can go actually back into our setup and actually change that inside of our Internet of Things by using ThingWorx functionality. So what I'll do is I'll go back to my landing page. And as you can see, each one of these, as an administrator, you will have these little pencils here. Those are the editing pencils. As a regular user, you will not have these pencils. So before I go in and actually change the Internet of Things, into ThingWorx to actually change and add additional properties, I'm going to come over here to the general editing of everything. So what we're able to go through and specify with the tailoring of the apps is basically for the search results, what's the maximum number of items that we want to see in our search results. So right now it's set to 50. So we can go through and change that value up or down. once again, depending on how complex things are. So that's why sometimes it may take a little bit of time for everything to come up because it's generating 50 items. Or once again, if that number is large, you can go through and specify that. Recent search displays. So when we do searches, it records that, it keeps that history. We can go through and specify how many search results do we want it to go through and save. So when we find something, we actually open it up, it's saving that. That way we don't have to keep going back and executing that same search over and over again. Recent searches. One of the other things that we can do right now, and I'm not sure if you've noticed, everything that I'm working in or that I've been working in or working with is a WT part. So right now, everything is a WT part for us to go in and use. So we can go through, and not everybody is using WT parts within their organization right now. So they may just be using it as a CAD reservoir. So what you can simply go in and do is now go in and say, okay, when you're searching, search for CAD files. Now, the other thing that's beneficial is in the latest version of the Navigate viewer is that you can actually specify both. Right now, in the one that I'm looking at, that I'm using, it actually only uses WT parts or CAD files. In the latest version of it, you can use WT parts or CAD files or both. So you can actually go through and specify either one of those. And of course, allowing a partial search for information. And the same thing here. So when I'm searching, am I searching for just a number? Am I searching for the name? Or am I searching for either one of them? And I can go through and specify that as well. One of the other things that we can do is we can also go through and enable a search filter, which allows us to now go in and specify information as far as maybe a release level that we want to go through and look at as well. We can go in and specify that. And we can also go through, and it allows us to use our save searches. So because this is connected to Windchill through our user, then if we have saved searches, it will actually allow us to go through and use those saved searches. So we can go through and now populate that as well. So we can use that same information or pass that same information across to those in manufacturing or, marketing, purchasing, whoever it is that may be using this application. All right. Before I move on, I see there is a question: is Navigator an extra module and extra cost? Yes, it is. But the use or the licenses for Navigator is actually a lot cheaper than buying a light seat of Windchill. So you have heavy seats and light seats. A Navigator seat is a lot cheaper than buying either one of those. And the other thing that's beneficial for that, and this is once again for everybody, is that it's actually able to be used all the way back to version 10.1. I can't remember which build code of 10.1, but you can actually integrate Navigator from 10.1 to 10.2, and of course in 11 it's available. So you don't have to upgrade your Windchill just to start using this functionality. It is valid back into 10.1, and once again, I can't remember which build code it is, but I'm sure it's one of the newer build codes of 10.1. Same thing with 10.2. So, all right, so that's that information there. I'll go ahead and cancel out of this because I didn't change anything. But now I want to go in specifically to my part properties. Now, once again, everything currently is just out of the box. My apologies. But now we want to go through and we want to edit the part properties. Now to edit that, once again, we're actually going to go into our ThingWorx functionality, which is the application that we use to go through and create what we're seeing in Navigator. So this is the way we can go through and manipulate this. So in order to do that, there's a couple of things that we need to keep in mind as far as what we're going to modify. So what we're going to modify is what we call a mashup, which is basically how everything looks. So that structure that we're looking at when we're viewing information, that's our mashup. We can also go through and edit the data shape, which is basically the information that we're going to go through and display. And then we're also going to go through and edit the part properties widget. So we're going to go in and edit this as well. So we're going to do this as we're editing the mashup. So to go into the ThingWorx functionality, we can just simply select on the link for the mashup. And what that does, it brings up our ThingWorx functionality. So what we want to go through and use is, once again, we want to go through and use the part. So we're just going to go through and filter the properties. And then we're going to use the part properties access app mashup. So I'm going to go in and now open this up. So as we can see, this is our general layout. So this is the information up at the top that we see. So it has all the information, and then our additional attributes down here at the bottom. So to go through and manipulate that information, we can come over here to the workspace. And the workspace is now how everything is laid out. So we can see the layout information for our panel displays. We can see our layout information down here. And the one that we want to manipulate was not the part properties label, but there's actually the part properties themselves, and that's the information here. And when I select it, you can see that it highlights that information down here on the screen. So as we go through and manipulate, or we begin to select items, we can see those things highlight in our mashup, so we know what we're actually going in and working on. So we're going to come over here to part properties, and for the part properties information down here, we're going to go in and select the configure widget. So this is the actual widget that we're going in and using for the part properties. And now what that does, it actually goes through and it shows us the information that we can now display in our additional attributes. So all this information is actually pulling from our models. So the only thing we want to add at this point is we can go through and now add our last modified attribute. And we can see that that information is here. So anything else that we want to add, we can go through and do that as well by simply selecting checkboxes next to it. Select done, and we can see last modified by is now available here. We can come over here and do a save. Now, if we wanted to see what this looked like before we actually got out of anything, there's a pick over here for view mashup. And when we go in and select that, it'll actually go in and show us the properties. And of course, for this one, because I'm trying to tell it to do it, it's not going to do it. But it will show it right about here. But we'll look at it in just a moment. I'm not sure why it's not showing. So we'll go ahead, once again, I'll save it again. And now, so that was the mashup that we went in and modified. So as I said, we modified the mashup and the widget within that mashup. And now we want to come over here, go back to our Home Explorer. And now I want to go through and manipulate the data space. So I'm going to come over here, and that one was labeled example 1. Part properties, access app data shape. So I'm going to go over and select on this one. And then once again, field definition. So what we're simply going and doing at this point is now adding that additional value inside of here. So we have the ones here for number, name. Down here at the bottom are the 2 additional ones. So we're going to come over here and add another additional one. And for this field, it's going to be the same as the one before, which was last modified by. And that will be an actual username. So it's actually going to go in and retrieve that username and populate that information there. All right, so at that point, I can go in and say done and add, and there's that new app, that new option added. So I'll come over here and save. And at that point, I can go in and close each one of these out. And now when I go back to my search, and I come back over to part properties, and once again, I'm going to go in and select on or use my option for car. And I'll pick on this one this time. And we can now see that we have that additional attribute called last modified by. And we can see that the last person that modified it was Pat, the product manager. So very simple to go through and do. It's once you get into it and you actually start to do it, or you do it one time, it becomes pretty simple to understand how things are actually created. And just so you can see some additional information, I just want to go in and show just a little bit more, not necessarily on adding attributes, because we can do that, but we can also go through and change how it looks cosmetically. So I'm going to go into my parts list. And what I'm going to do here is go in and edit the mashup for the parts list. All right, so the parts list, access, mashup, we're going to go right into that one. So once again, you can see that this is the general layout here. So when we go in and actually do our listing, we can go through and specify how that's all manipulated as well. So I go to my workspace and we can see everything here. So as I go in and select, I can see the options down here at the bottom updating or changing. So right now I have the header. I can change the coloring of the header. I can come over here to the search information. So that whole area, I can change that. So let's go over here to style. And I'm going to go in and edit the style. And go to the style information, and then I'm going to simply just change the background. And once again, I just want to show you that you can go through and customize this, let's make it yellow, as much as you want to. I'll go ahead and save that. And then once again, close that out. And then I can go in and view the mashup, and you can see that the initial background of everything is going to be yellow. So when we actually go through and execute the search, it's going to be yellow. Now, I didn't manipulate the actual part listing area, which is where all the actual items will be located. So the background of everything will be in the yellow. So we can go through and manipulate any of that information as we go through. So the parts list summary, we can continue to go in and go all the way down to the grid, which is the actual area itself. Now the background is one color, and maybe we want to go through and make the search results area a different color. So once again, go in and update the information. So we can go through and just play around with that. We can change the text size. We can change the fonts. We can change the color of the text, the size of the text. We can go through and change the border itself here. So there's quite a bit of information we can go through and tweak. So as we go through and we view a listing, if I just refresh this, we can see that it goes in and updates the information. So, and like I said, I just didn't change the background color here. I just changed the background color of everything there. So pretty simple. I mean, so yeah, this whole thing, get into it. It's a new application that's been developed, but it's a simple application to go through and actually start to customize. So a lot of the stuff that we need to go through and work between Windchill and the Navigator is already there. We just have to go through and now customize things to now pull the information that we actually want to go in and display. Now, what I'm showing is just generally information with Windchill and the Navigator, but there are other applications that actually use this as well. And actually PTC has set it up as well for us to use ourselves. And I'm trying to get to, there it is. I'll pull. So they've actually used it themselves within their database or within their setup. So this is the same thing. So this is our performance advisor that we all get if you have access to it when you're actually in your tech support area. So if you go into My Company and you look at the performance advisor, that information, that's what they're using to go in and view that. So this is basically built within that ThingWorx functionality. So I pulled information from Windchill. They're pulling information from our session. So when we go in and basically when we're installing information and we're telling them that to send information to them, that's what we're sending them. We're sending them information based on, exits. How many unexpected exits? How do we exit? Each one of those different areas. So, and the user themselves that exit. How many premature exits do they have? How often do they happen? Who does it happen to? So you have a lot of information that you can go through and look at. So this is the information that they're tracking as well for us, to see. And we can also go in here and find out, okay, people are saying that they're having exits, early exits. We can go through and find out how often it happens within our software. So yeah, so like I said, we're using it for linking our data within Windchill. They've actually shown that it can be used to link other data. And if you go onto their website, if you just type in IoT for a search, there's quite a bit of information. You can actually see some of the presentations that they did from the ThingWorx conference that they had earlier this year. And they have quite a few companies that are using this and a lot of the applications. So they're using it on tablets. So you can actually go through and look at replacement parts, how to put stuff together, run diagnostics on it. One of the things that I found very interesting with it is that they are actually using it as well in different universities. So they have an academic area of it as well. And you'll see a lot of videos on that as well. But they have a lot of academic information in there as well, where colleges are using it in their engineering programs so that they can run diagnostics on it as well. So it's quite a bit. So not only do they have it on their website, but there's also a ThingWorx YouTube channel that you can go through and look at as well to see additional information on it too. All right, so at this point, we'll go back. To here and ask if there are any additional questions. Any change to product structure, cat link types and functionality. I don't think there is. As far as product structure and cat link, that should be pretty much the same. As far as how you can create your structures and link different types of objects to it, or create the different types of links, that information or that setup is still the same. So I can't remember of any changes to that. So if there are any questions, please feel free to type them into the question area in the webinar dialog box. So we'll wait a few, give you guys a chance. Okay, doesn't look like there's any additional questions. So at this point, I will go ahead and conclude the webinar, and I will say thank you all for attending. I hope you got something out of it. If you have any additional questions, once again, feel free to contact me. My information is here. Michael Wimberly, my phone number, my email address. If you have any sales questions specifically, you can always contact Carrie Dillon, and then her information is there at the bottom as well. So once again, I want to say thank you all for attending, and hope to see you guys again on one of our upcoming Wednesday webinars. Thank you.